From the legend of Theophilus in the 6th century to modern-day media like The Sinners, Oh Brother Where Art Thou, and The Devil Went Down to Georgia by Charlie Daniels, selling your soul has been a constant in cautionary tales around the globe. These are just ideals, though, originating from Christianity, acting as a warning to those who feel lost to a point at which they'll do anything to get what they truly desire. A folktale is just a story, until it becomes reality. This is a story of Robert Johnson, the man who sold his soul to the devil. On May 8, 1911, in Hazelhurst, Mississippi, Robert was born to mother Julia Major Dodds and her husband Charles Dodds. However, Charles was not actually Robert's biological father, as Robert would be using the term of the time, a bastard child in wedlock. Charles was a very successful carpenter and farmer, but unfortunately in this time, being a successful black man in the South, Charles was run out of town by a lynch mob. He fled Mississippi in 1909, leaving behind Julia and their 10 children, and landed in Memphis, Tennessee, where he changed his name to Charles Spencer. 2 years later, Julia was in a relationship with a plantation worker named Noah Johnson, with who she had Robert with. This relationship, however, did not last, and Julia and Robert would spend the next almost decade moving from house to house and town to town. Julia eventually remarried to a sharecropper who forced Robert to work as a farmhand. However, Robert didn't want the field life, as it was grueling and not very profitable. Any chance he could get, he'd blow into his harmonica or pick away at his guitar while others around him worked. It is speculated that Robert was punished and abused many times for what his stepfather would consider to be his poor work ethic. But in reality, even though this was one generation post the abolishment of slavery, field workers across the South at this time still used music as a method of coping with the extremely harsh working conditions. Black workers would keep harmonicas and mouth harps in their pockets, and throughout the day hum out a tune or two before they could get caught not working. The songs of struggle and oppression carried on from their ancestors of slavery onto the field workers of this time. They may have been free under the emancipation, but we all know that violent racism was still very much prominent, especially in the South. Mississippi at this time was even considered the most brutal and racist state, so much so that fields in the Carolinas and West Virginia would threaten to send their farmhands to the fields of Mississippi if they fell out of line. Blues at the time was considered the devil's music. The churches declared that anyone who was going to the music bars, which were called juke joints, instead of being dedicated to a life of hard work and family under God, would be on a fast-track ticket to hell. And this wasn't a race thing either, even though blues clearly derives from songs of slavery. Even black churchgoers believed this wholeheartedly. This, of course, did not deter Robert. He dreamed day and night about being a famous blues guitar player, but it didn't exactly come natural to him. He tried playing for the farm workers and sharecroppers, but no one had any money to give him for his performances. The money wasn't in the fields. It was in the city. During this time, Robert fell in love with a girl named Virginia Travis. She was 15 and Robert was 18. They lied about their age in order to get married and start their life together. Virginia and her family were big in the church and disapproved of Robert playing any blues music. Upon Virginia's request, Robert vowed to put down the guitar and swore off music, and in return would work full-time in the fields to support her. After a short time, Virginia became pregnant and at 8.5 months moved to be with family for the arrival of their new baby. Robert stayed behind to work, but quickly took the chance to perform again. His plan was to hit his normal spots while traveling to Virginia's families and making it there on time for the delivery, but he in fact did not make it in time. Before Robert could make it, Virginia and the baby both perished in labor. They were both buried together before Robert's arrival. He walked into her family's house, where they immediately blamed him for their deaths. "You've been playing that devil's music," they claimed. "This is your fault." With Robert feeling destroyed and with nowhere else to go, he returned to what he knew, playing as much as he could. Robert would frequent local juke joints, following his guitar-playing mentors. Son House and Willie Brown were two well-established blues guitar players that Robert constantly looked up to. During their performances, whenever the two would take a break, Robert would take the opportunity to pick up their guitar and try his best to perform for the crowd. However, his plucking was less than stellar. Son House would describe it as Robert was noising the crowd. Afraid he would break a string or lose the crowd entirely, the two musicians would regularly run Robert out of the joint. Robert was understandably annoyed that no one would give him the opportunity he desired, and so one night after being kicked out of playing horribly, he said, "I'll show you," and disappeared into the darkness of night. Robert would not be seen again for about a year. Nearly 1 year later, Son and Willie were playing at their normal juke joint. A man with a guitar enters and starts casually making his way to the stage. The two men sat on stage, focused on the figure, until they realized the man walking to them was Robert Johnson. Unfazed, they asked Robert why he was there, to which Robert asked them to just give him a shot. As he climbed on stage, the two noticed his guitar was the same old ratty guitar that Robert always had with him, except it had an extra 7th string, something that no one had seen before now. Unsure of how this performance would go, the crowd focused on the stage, expecting for him to start noising them again with the same old bad guitar playing. But instead, the entire room was overcome with shock, as Robert went from a mediocre guitar player to a master overnight. It was described as it sounded like multiple people were playing, even though it was just Robert on stage. He was playing licks that even his once mentors couldn't play. The crowd was amazed at how quickly Robert seemed to have mastered the instrument. It was unbelievable. Almost too unbelievable. Speculation and rumors quickly spread, with the only logical explanation being that the once horrible musician sold his soul to the devil. Legend has it, Robert found himself at an empty crossroads at midnight. No one knows the exact location of these crossroads Robert reportedly went to, but it was believed to be near Dockery Plantation. Guitar in hand, Robert was met with a large figure, who took the guitar and tuned it, adding a 7th string. The devil played a few tunes, handed back the guitar to Robert, and the deal was done. Robert was met with a newfound mastery of the instrument, but in return, Robert's soul was forever bound to the devil. With his newfound talent, Robert started touring new spots. Over the next few years, he had 2 recording sessions where he recorded a total of 29 songs, most notably being Crossroad, Hellhound on My Tail, and Sweet Home Chicago, to name a few. Robert's songs were released as singles rather than full albums originally. In them, his lyrics heavily leaned into the legend of him selling his soul, with blatant references of meeting a demon at a crossroads, being hunted by hellhounds, and walking alongside the devil. His shocking choice of lyrics and impressive chord progressions gained him a small but loyal following, but would never fully make it to big-time status. He was described by contacts during this time as woman crazy, and would find women in different towns he played in to stay with until he hit the road once again. Women and whiskey were his muses, and ironically would become his downfall. On the night of August 16th, 1938, in Greenwood, Mississippi, Robert was in one of his normal joints. It was a normal night with friends, enjoying drinks and music. One of Robert's lady friends that he regularly stayed with happened to be the wife of that bar's owner. This came to be common knowledge as rumors of Robert's affairs quickly spread throughout the Delta. A bottle of whiskey was mysteriously sent to Robert's table. As Robert grabbed the bottle, preparing to drink it, his friend Honeyboy knocked it out of his hand, telling him to never drink from a bottle that he hadn't seen opened himself. In his response, Robert replied, "Don't ever knock a bottle out of my hand." As the evening grew longer, Robert began to feel ill and had to be helped back to his room. The next 3 days, he was consumed with pain and convulsions, eventually leading to his death. Robert's actual cause of death is unknown, but researchers later theorized that complications of congenital syphilis were a factor. But the strongest theory from his tight circle within the Mississippi Delta is that poisoned bottle of whiskey. The exact location of Robert's grave is also unknown, with 3 different markers being placed around the town of Greenwood, Mississippi. Robert's death would solidify him as the founder of the 27 Club, a group of notable musicians who quickly found fame, but unfortunately met their fate at the age of 27. The club includes famous musicians like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, and more. This is a strange phenomenon that many refer to as a curse that these celebrities had each sold their soul to the devil in return for a life of fame and legendary status. Today, the 27 Club stands as a tragic reminder that fame can easily lead to one's downfall. And even if you would sell your soul to make your deepest wish come true, sometimes the devil is in the details.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that same old place, sweet home, Chicago. Well, 1 and 1 is 2, 6 and 2 is 8. Come on, baby, now, don't make me late. Howdy, hey, baby, don't you wanna go back to that same old place, sweet home, Chicago? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go back to that same old place, sweet home, Chicago? Well, 6 and 3 is 9, 9 and 9 is 18. Come on, baby, now, see what I seen. Howdy, hey, baby, don't you wanna go back to that same old place, sweet home, Chicago? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go back to the same old place, sweet home, Chicago?
Thank you all so much for watching this video. It took a ton of research to make it, but I enjoyed every second of it. If you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe as it'll help me grow this channel tremendously. Happy Halloween, and until next time, deuces everybody.